Welcome to Book Watch, the podcast where pages meet screens. I'm your host, Sarah Day. Each week, I'll be joined by amazing guests to dive deep into the world of adaptations, comparing beloved books with their cinematic counterparts. From faithful retellings to bold reimaginings, we'll break down what worked, what didn't, and what made each adaptation unforgettable. Whether you're a bookworm, a movie buff, or both, you are in the right place. So grab your bookmark, grab your popcorn, and let's watch some books. Welcome back, listeners. Today, I am joined by Alyssa King of the Stories and Spoilers podcast. Alyssa, I'm so excited to have you here. Will you please just tell a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Absolutely. My name is Alyssa. I am the host of Stories and Spoilers, the podcast. Why did I pick such a tongue twister with a girl with a lisp? We will never know. But I want to be charming. But it was I love discussing books with non-spoilers. So I'll do an entire episode about my favorite tropes, quotes, my movie casting in my mind, things like that. And then I'll do a separate episode, which will be just full of spoilers, deep dives, certain elements of the story that I found, maybe theories, quotes I really enjoyed that were specific to the story. And for some books, I'll do an entire explanation. Like I will describe the entire book to you. So if you don't want to read it, I will read it. And then I will tell you all about it. I have guests on the show. I do monthly books for the Soul episodes. I highlight African-American authors, bookish bloggers, and small businesses. And you can find me on Spotify and YouTube. So that's all the things about me and my podcast. So yeah.
Well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here to talk about Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, the book, which came out in 2026 and was actually her debut novel before Gone Girl days.
Which is insane.
Yes. And then the show was an HBO limited series.
Yeah.
Which came out in 2018. It was created by Marty Noxon, directed by Jean-Marc Vallée, and the writing and credits include Gillian Flynn, Ariella Bleasure, Don Camache, Martin Noxon, Scott Brown, Vince Calandra, and Alex Metcalf. Alyssa, do you remember any of the hype around Sharp Objects or even Gone Girl and Gillian Flynn in general, and kind of how Sharp Objects what kind of cultural phenomenon this had?
I do. When Sharp Objects first came out, or when I first found the book, I was in high school, and all of the female main characters I had ever read about were either really shy and like soft spoken, or they were like these like heroines who were afraid of nothing. So like Katniss from Hunger Games or a Bella from Twilight. Like there was only two versions I'd ever read about.
Right.
I had never read about women who were full-formed adults, were complex, who had dark sides, who had reasons they made certain choices, who had trauma coming in that wasn't related to a man. I had never read books like that. So Gillian Flynn, even though her stories are quite dark and are known to be quite dark, Gone Girl had the same impact as like an M. Night Shyamalan kind of film where there's an oh my God moment. There's a twist. But the book, I in high school, I remember it was something about hearing people talk about like the wife, she was a good girl in the beginning and then there was a twist. But for me, I was more so interested in what made her this way. Is she just a sociopath? Was it an event that occurred? Is she self-aware? My brain was always just kind of wondering, if I were to read the book, would it expand on this woman even more? And was it because of a man, or is it because of something she witnessed or a family dynamic? My brain just kind of wandered. When I read Sharp Objects, I actually haven't read Gone Girl. I read Sharp Objects because one of the opening lines, I think it was a quote that I had found on Goodreads that pulled me in, that referenced like a seed of darkness in every woman. And I thought that was so like brilliant and fascinating, this concept that every woman has the capability to become a villain or be a dark character.
Yeah.
And that kind of began my love with like female rage, with like, seeing women who are villains and there is no bright side. There's no man that can fix it. Like love is not going to heal it. Like just something about that. Like what does a monster think about? What is she really a monster? Like that's so interesting to me. So I love this
just
book.
like a very raw story and
100%.
really highlighting a lot of different mental health issues.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't say it better.
I don't remember how I stumbled upon Sharp Objects. I'm sure it just popped up. I'm an audio listener, so I'm sure it was like a recommended audiobook. But I was immediately hooked and couldn't stop listening. So I and then of course the show was announced.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm the reason why this podcast is a podcast today is because I always have to read the book before I see something. So when I
Same.
see a show or a movie is coming out that was based on a book, I'm like, well, let me go read the book because I want to know I want to see all those Easter eggs. And I know we'll get into like our initial impressions, and our next episode will get into the meat of the adaptation. But I thought the show did a really solid job adapting this book from page to screen.
The tone of the book, I constantly felt claustrophobic. Like from the very first moment of like her red sweater, being in a work environment, you know you're not wanted, and you have one coworker, you have one boss who you believe in. If you've ever had a relative who's made you feel uncomfortable or who has picked at you, or especially as a woman, when you're like a teenager and they put you in clothes you don't like, or they,
Mhm.
have a mother figure who might be suffocating. But to others, like, oh, she's just understanding. But as a young woman, you're coming into your body, you're coming into society, like you feel already watched. And for some people, that's just too much. And then having a overbearing figure above you with authority could even add to that pressure, like a what is it, like a pot with like it's just boiling over. I felt that in the book. And
Mm.
I felt that in the show. I don't know how
Yes.
they were able to bring that feeling into the show, but they did. Like, you could feel
And
the sweatiness of the South, like, it was intense.
yes. And something else that I thought was really interesting on the way they adapted it was in the book when she's having memories, it's the words. She feels the words
Yes.
flare up on her body.
Ugh.
And how do you show that on the screen? Well, they did it in like very quick flashbacks.
Mhm.
And then even you would see the word in places. So I thought that was really
Oof.
well done.
I think as well, like, it's I haven't read that many books with self-harm, just discussed so in detail and being so integral to the main character. Most books I've read about mental
Mhm.
health have been in relation to internal issues.
Mhm.
So when it's mirrored both in her mind and on her body, her past and currently on her body in the present, like these
Mhm.
scars, it's almost like she wouldn't allow herself to forget. Like the trauma
Yeah.
alone reminded her, but now the trauma is like physical, like on her. And we see that later on, and I'm sure we'll expand about how that impacts her present. Um, I will say this, Amy Adams can do no wrong. Like I
I
didn't have an
know.
actor in my mind when I read the book, but wow, I have no complaints. She was amazing.
Yeah, she really
Whoa.
did, and we'll get into the characters in a minute, but yeah, and to go from something like Enchanted to this, like, really shows her range.
Yes. Even seeing her in Night Bitch, which I did an episode with a friend on their podcast, about that book to film adaptation. She's not afraid, like, to show the parts of womanhood that are
Mm,
ugly and terrifying and frustrating, and, like, I've never seen an actress who's able to show things that, like, I've only had private conversations about with other women, and she shows that on
right,
screen, which is, like, it allows you to read it in a book, but also to see it, like, on your phone screen or see it on your screen at home, like, you know, the trauma you had as a teenager does not wash away as an adult. Like, who you were
right.
at 16 is not gone when you're 28 or
Yeah.
40. Like, that
Ugh.
16-year-old is still inside of you.
Mhm.
She's still there. All the
Yeah.
mistakes you made, all of that, she's still there. So I think this book was, if anything, like a love letter to, like, girlhood and the
Mm,
darkness of girlhood that no one talks about. Like, it's not all, like,
yeah.
pretty and glowy and fun and, like, high school is the best years of my life. That is not like, girlhood is not like that for everyone.
Right.
And that's okay. Even, like, the relation between a mother and a daughter, I feel like it's very rare. People talk about how, like, there's a bad part to that. Like, it could get bad for some women.
Yeah.
And it's important to highlight that, like, not all mothers are well, and how does that impact their daughters inherently.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I mean, when you have something like the Gilmore Girls, which is your,
mm,
like, ideal,
best friends. She's
idea
your mom and your
of
best
a
friend.
mother-daughter relationship, yeah, and then, that's not what it is like for everybody.
Even Gilmore Girls, there was, like, it's so idyllic. Like
Mhm.
who doesn't love autumn? Who doesn't love a Pop Tart and a autumnal candle and wearing sweaters and not getting hot and sweaty and like your makeup's always great and the guy next door loves you back? Like
Right.
who doesn't want that scenario? But I think it's one of those things where it's like not everyone's mom who had them at a very young age has the mental capacity to mature along with their child. Sometimes they don't want to be left behind. They don't
Mhm.
want to feel abandoned. And there's a resentment there, I think, deep down. And
Yeah.
I had never seen an author tap into that. Feels very taboo. Like it
Yes,
is it's a
exactly.
little bit taboo. I love taboo topics. How are you supposed to understand it if you don't discuss it?
Exactly.
You
Mhm.
know, so the crimes,
Well, and mental health in
you know,
general, how are you supposed to understand it
exactly.
and that taboo if we're not talking about it and we're afraid to talk about it?
The even like the mental health element of this book, the true crime, if you want to say it, the crime element of this book, certain things I think got overshadowed because of how prominent the heart of the story is about. uh, uh, I really do think it's about identity, womanhood, girlhood, and the connection between a mother and her daughters. And
100%.
how you know, like when a tree rots, it rots from the bottom and it works its way up. It's a
Right.
lot like that with a family. It's like the roots work their way up. Like this story is from like the roots up, you know?
Yeah.
So it
Mhm.
was it's very if anything, it could easily be like a Southern Gothic if you really think about it. It kind
Yeah.
of is
It is.
horrific, like in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, I don't want to give too much away, but that's like the best. I just it felt claustrophobic. Like it felt like being stuck in a car in the summertime. Like it felt
Yeah.
bad, you know?
You just mentioned not giving anything away. This is a spoilery podcast. Like if you're listening to this
Yeah.
podcast, you've seen the show and read the book or one or the other. So don't hesitate to give spoilers, especially in our next
Fire away.
episode. We'll be getting into the meat of the story, especially a couple twists.
There
So
are. Gillian will never disappoint you, which I like.
yes. And
Also, the men aren't all bad either. I appreciate that. And Gone Girl, I heard they're all
yeah,
trash. So it's nice to it's nice to see that not all the men in the story are like horrific. Like,
right.
you know,
And
if
I
anything, they're
haven't
being
read
manipulated.
Gone Girl either, and I haven't seen the movie in a very long time, so
Oh,
I can't remember, the men per se, but, I
yeah,
do really think her knowing what I know about Gone Girl and the twist from Gone Girl,
right.
and then, of course, reading this one, and I am coming onto your podcast, soon to talk about another Gillian Flynn book,
Yes.
so all of her books are very interesting and, um, what is the word? Complex.
Yeah,
Um, very complex and lots of interesting things to discuss. So,
I
um,
agree.
going back to the cultural impact of the show,
Mhm.
I do want to make note that the show was nominated for 8 Emmys,
Which is
and
insane.
Amy Adams and Patricia did win Critics' Choice Awards for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress. So that just speaks to the quality of the show. I mean, of course, it's HBO, so it's going to be a hit.
They're not afraid to be
Um,
edgy. I think they're also
ex
prominently
Edgy
known
is such a good
for
word
being
for it.
super edgy
Yes.
and, like, very True Blood, The Leftovers, like, I can think of 1,000 shows that are not afraid to tap into some very dark
Cross the line.
topics. Also, I think
Yes.
True Blood and I think they're both, book to film adaptations or book to show adaptations, I believe.
I think
So,
HBO does a few, like, has done
yeah.
several page to screen
Game
adaptations.
of
Because yes, True
Thrones,
Blood was a
yeah.
book. Yeah, Game of Thrones, yeah. So I will surely be covering several HBO shows.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
So we've kind of already discussed a lot of the key themes, but the generational trauma and psychological scars, we've
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of dug into that a little bit. And then toxic femininity. We hear
Ooh,
toxic masculinity a lot, but I think this book and show was a great example of what toxic femininity can be.
I
Do
like
you have
that.
any thoughts on that and like how the book
Yeah.
portrayed that and then how the show adapted that to screen?
I think that the concept of beauty is pain really sums up like
Mhm.
Camille's mom, and their dynamic, this concept of like the house reflected how she wanted to present herself on the
Mhm.
outside versus how she really presented herself on the inside, the ways that her daughters felt they had to present themselves in order to please her.
Mhm.
Even just the concept of like there's a scene I wonder. There's a scene both in the show and the book, to my understanding, if I remember correctly, where she's in a changing room and her mom started to
Yes.
put her into an outfit she doesn't want to wear. Um, we've all probably been there. But it's situations like that where her mom is well aware of her scars. Like she knows,
Mhm.
doesn't care enough to consider what her daughter may or may not want to display to the public.
Right.
And this sense of like, as your mother, I know what you want. I know what you need. I have this maternal instinct. Let me care for you. It goes from being sweet to insidious.
Right.
And it's this concept even in her sister. We see how the version she is when she's out in the world, she's able to explore her appearance, her developing body, which she has every right to do.
Mhm.
But she's also aware of the power she has and the way that things can be perceived. And she plays off of certain elements of her femininity to the point where it becomes toxic to me. It definitely becomes toxic because when she's home, she's playing this like
Doll.
pristine doll like character. Yeah, like she's just cemented in this youth forever. And I remember in the book, I think the sister was like 13, 14. In the
Mhm.
show, they aged her up, thank God. And she was like 16, 18. I say thank God because creepy kids, red flag. In the episode we do together, there is a creepy child. But he's
Yeah.
not like like a 2-year-old. Like
Right.
he's like a pre-tween.
Well, and even
Yeah.
like reading the book, even as a
Mhm.
14-year-old, the things that she's doing is just like, I
Scary.
can't believe a 14-year-old is doing this. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the ending where she's actually, spoiler alert, the murderer.
Yes.
So this 14-year-old, but she got there because of what her mother was doing to her. But
Right.
yes,
It
and
it
so
escalates quite a bit.
yes,
Yeah, that what is it? The temper tantrums? Whenever you see a child have a temper tantrum,
yes,
people think kids don't have, like, physical strength. When kids get upset, like, when they
hmm
throw if kids stomp or whatever, when a kid is upset, like, I have little brothers, they can literally weigh themselves down, they don't wanna move, like, kids
yeah,
can be quite strong.
yes. I have
So
2 children, so
so
yes.
so I'm sure if you've ever seen a kid have a meltdown, nothing will
hmm
calm them down in that moment. They have
No,
to kinda just
yeah,
go through it.
you have to let it go. Yeah, let
Exactly.
it
So
out.
when I imagined her rage, and the things that she would physically have to do to commit the crimes she did, it
Yeah.
didn't blow my mind. I also study criminal justice, so, I'm in
Oh,
college, so something but the concept of anger and what your body reacts to, people become quite strong. So even as
yes.
a 14-year-old, it does not surprise me what she
Well,
has
and I
done
have to just
physically.
comment because I don't know if you saw the end credit scenes of the last episode.
Yes.
Um, what you're describing just
Mm,
now, I feel like the end credit scene really encapsulated that,
spooky.
because that pure rage that the actress, is showing during those quick little snippets of the murders.
Yeah, because your brain in the books, I remember just the descriptions of the victims was enough for me to be like, okay, I know how they were unalived. You get a concept like what happened to them.
Mhm.
But the amount of rage, like I don't think we in the books, I don't think we ever heard about it being like a sexual assault of any sort. It really was just like torture.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, eh, and
Well,
then in
in
the
the books,
oh
I don't
God,
remember if they talked about this in the movies, but that was a specific point, is that they were not sexually assaulted,
essentially,
and
no.
they were like, "Oh, it must be a gay man," which is that Southern, uh, um
Which is horrible. What gave them the impression?
right,
But they assumed because they weren't hurt in a sexual manner that they weren't but it couldn't have been a man like, it
a
wouldn't have been a
woman.
straight man. Yeah.
They wouldn't accept that it could have been a woman, but
Right.
it wasn't a man. It could have been a gay man,
Mhm.
but it wasn't a man because they weren't sexually assaulted, and it couldn't be a woman, so it had to have been a gay man. Like, it's just like
They were
the
jumping to
mental
conclusions.
gymnastics
It
they
was
had to do to
insane.
get to that point. Yeah.
It gave her so much room. Like, it to me, to not question the girl's friends, like, to not
Right.
question, like, who they were around, like, the clickiness of it all, um, it blew my mind. Also, like, the little boy who said he saw a woman in the woods with the white dress,
Mhm.
and, like, in my mind, I'm like, "Woman in the woods?" Like, maybe it was a scary story he heard, like, my brothers say things all the time. They're children.
Right.
But you have to
Right,
believe
and a
children.
woman in a white dress in the woods is like your classic horror
Ghost.
ghost story.
Yeah,
Right.
seeing ghosts. But even just hearing about the description of the girl being found between the 2 buildings and the teeth being removed, for me, as someone who's gone to the dentist many a time, it takes a lot of physical strength to remove a tooth. I have a tooth removed from my wisdom teeth.
Mhm.
Even though you're knocked out, it's a lot of strength. So that's why I'm sitting
Uh-huh.
here and I'm like, if a grown man, it requires quite a bit. How's a 14-year-old girl gonna do that? Sorry, but
Right.
like in my brain, I did have to kind of suspend belief a little bit on that
Mhm.
end because as someone who has had work done, I'm just like, oh,
Mhm.
how?
Well, and I did read an interview with Gillian Flynn that she did do the research to make sure a
Okay.
14-year-old girl could pull teeth.
I'm like, dang, girl, like it's
Yeah.
the all because she wanted her mom's their agreement.
Attention.
She wanted her
Yes.
attention. This agreement
Right.
that if she allowed her
Mhm.
to, make her sick to care for her, that this love and this attention would be remain. The
Yes.
mother,
Yeah.
because of her mental illness, which I don't even know is it, uh, not
Munchausen's by proxy.
yes, so to make her children sick to care for them, she is it's like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in the sense where she causes the problem, but she also fixes it.
Yes.
Like, it that horrible cycle, even with Camille's other sister who we find out passed away, in the
Mhm.
back of my mind, I was like, "Wasn't she super young?" Like, her being described as being sick all the time, I was like, "What did she have?" Like, it was just that concept of, like, did she have, like
Right.
it was never really so once we discovered what happened with the mom, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense because it was never spelled
Yes.
out, like, what illness she had, you know?
Yeah, and poor Camille, like, she's seeing the same thing happen with
Mhm.
Emma, but doesn't when she finally puts 2 and 2 together and makes the realization that her mom is sick in the head,
Right.
she feels so much guilt that she let that happen to her sister and is letting that happen currently to Emma, and, like, how did I not see this before?
I think it breaks my heart because, like, for anyone who has children or who has siblings or who has friends who are in a tough mental situation or have a toxic family situation, you blame yourself. Like, why didn't I see it earlier? But in my
Mhm,
mind, I'm like the same way when you read a book, you don't know the ending till you get to the ending. It doesn't
mhm,
matter how smart you are. Abuse can happen anywhere, and to take on that blame and to continue. The cycle only continues if you continue to blame yourself as like it was my fault. No, it
right.
was the mother's fault. Like, it truly was, unaliving her daughter because just pushing and pushing and pushing and continuing to make her sick. She took away her future, she took away her
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
and then to have another daughter on top of that, the age gap as well. Camille, I believe, is in her mid-30s, early 40s, and
mhm,
then her sister in the book was 13, 14, and the show is 16, 18. The mom chose to have another child. Even the father in the story, we could always debate, was he complicit?
right.
Or did he turn a blind eye? How did
Yeah,
he
and
not
it's
know?
never really like,
You know?
blatantly
Yeah,
stated.
he was living there. How did he not
Mhm,
know?
right,
And he was not I'm sure you saw as well in the book and the show, he wasn't in control. Like, that dynamic of,
right.
like, the father, that nuclear family she was trying to create, he wasn't like he wasn't the spine, he wasn't the core of the
No,
family.
not
She
at all.
was.
No.
Yeah, and that toxic core, like the roots of a tree, it infected everything, including her daughter, which
Yeah.
was I just that's my thing is, like, nurture versus nurture. Was her daughter evil already? Or did she become evil because of her mother and what her mother did
Yeah.
to her?
Yeah,
We don't know.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, are
That's
killers
always
made
an
or,
interesting
what
topic.
happened?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
theory. It's a theory, so
Yeah.
this book, if anything, like I said, girlhood. Is girlhood toxic? Can it become toxic in the wrong environment?
Yeah.
I don't it's a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
When we meet her in the first few chapters, you don't look at this young girl and think predator. Like, you don't look at her and think killer, you know?
Right.
But, like,
Mhm.
there were certain things she said throughout the book, and I was like, "What do you mean by that?" Like, once you know the
Yes,
twist,
when you
you're like,
reread it,
"What do you mean
yeah,
by
all
that?"
the little Easter eggs, I mean and then
Exactly.
even in the show, there's not Easter eggs so much as, like, watching the
Mhm.
actress that plays Emma and, like, the way she reacts to things, and, like, you start to
Yes.
notice that, and that's what I love about a rewatch or a reread. But let's get into our key character
Let's do it.
discussion. So I'll talk about the characters and who played the character. And just let me know if you think that they did a really great job, if it was a good casting or not. So, of course, first up, we're going to have Camille Preaker, who is our main protagonist here,
Mhm.
and of course, played by the beautiful Amy Adams. And I know
Mhm.
we spoke earlier that you said she can do no wrong.
I don't think I've ever seen her in a film where she gave, like, 2%. Like, I feel like she's committed herself to every role. I think there's something about seeing her angry or like even just seeing her like in control, like behind the scenes. I love how she gets this quiet, like her facial reactions, like you could see her kind of calculating her next move. There was a film where she
Yeah.
was part of a cult which alluded to Scientology.
Mhm.
And there was a man who was supposed to be controlling everything, and she was always in the background, and she was the wife. And you see him like look to her, like he'd always look across the room to her, like for permission,
Mhm.
even though he was leading the group. And Amy Adams, being this quiet, like meek wife, you see her like nod and like push him aside. There are certain things where you realize she's really in control.
Huh.
So it's little things like that where I'm like, Amy
Mhm.
Adams has the ability to play like
It's not just speaking
so
lines,
well.
it's their body movement.
100%. Like throughout the show, I could see whenever you could see her like flash to the past, or when you see her have that itch. There also is substance abuse in this
Yes.
bookend show.
Mhm.
The I always feel bad saying like trigger warnings A, B, and C because I don't want to ever speak wrong of anything. But going into this book, should I have read it at 18? Probably not. I probably should have
Mhm.
waited till I was in my, my mid 20s. But I'm like, I'm grateful I read it because it did flesh out like alcoholism, um,
Mhm.
cutting and how everything she was experiencing in her mind, she put into her body, and she harmed herself to kind of pull herself back in that space.
Mhm.
Um, just the psychology of it all, you feel for Camille. And when she's drinking and when she is trying to kind of blur out all of this pain, like she's in a consistent state of pain.
Mhm.
And throughout the entire book, you just want her to finally get a break.
Yeah.
So I feel like Amy Adams, if anything, if I could put one word to her acting in the show besides being amazing, she was exhausted. Like she was
Oh,
emotionally
yeah.
and physically exhausted.
And
Yeah.
I think Amy actually said that, like, this role was like it really put her in a dark place, and she didn't know if she would come back for a season 2 if that was an option because it
Oh
is
God.
such a dark character.
I couldn't. I'm kind of glad they ended it where they ended it because
Yeah.
the book ends at such a like you're in like half a breath. You go, you feel. I did not feel like I caught my breath. I didn't feel like I could sleep well at night. Like it ended in a very
Yes.
like knee jerk
Yeah.
reaction. The show for me just left me wanting to take a shower. I felt terrified.
Yeah, I hear
So
that.
Amy Adams, I think she gave. I have really bad anxiety, so seeing her in the show, I had to take breaks sometimes as well because I was
Yes.
like, for anyone who ever overthinks, or like
Mhm.
thinks about what they did in high school, what you did 3 days ago, and you think, oh, that was so cringy, or oh, I hate that I did that. The self-loathing was insane. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, she regrets a lot. So
Yeah.
I think the casting was amazing. I couldn't have imagined anyone who could have done that better.
Yeah, after seeing it, there's definitely nobody else that could play Camille.
I agree.
So next up, we have her mother,
Mm.
Adora Crellin,
Oh
played
gosh.
by Patricia Clarkson.
I thought it was very good casting. What do you think? I won't lie. I was imagining someone else, but I wasn't mad with the casting. I
I'm
wasn't
with
mad.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, reading the book, I imagined somebody else, but I thought Patricia really embodied the character of Adora very well and just gave
Yeah.
that really eerie, like creepy mom vibes.
Mm. I imagined a younger Meryl Streep. That's who I imagined.
Ah,
That's who I
mhm,
was imagine I needed her to be controlling, and I needed
mhm.
her to be incredibly classy and timeless, but
Yes,
insanely controlling, like, behind the scenes. I just imagined Meryl Streep. I could imagine
yeah,
her, like, deeply insulted, like, very, like, Devil Wears Prada. I needed her to be like, "You're like, I'm done with you.
yep,
You can leave."
mhm.
I needed her to be
Yes,
dismissive, and I just
yes,
I think she did that in the show, but in the book, I needed someone cold who could
mhm,
switch to being warm, you know? I
mhm.
liked that though. In the show, I just seeing her eyes, those, like, bright
Well,
bluish
and
green
that's
eyes,
Adora's superpower, right? That's how she controls this whole town, is that she
that approval.
is warm and welcoming when
Mhm.
she wants and needs to be,
Oh, yeah.
but underneath that
It's
is this
calculation.
calculating, conniving woman.
She had she had her daughters, like, in a chokehold. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like, there was something about, like, when I think of, like, a good mother, I think of someone who's nurturing, warm, who's gives it to you straight, who's honest. You can be aware of your strength and your influence and not use it at every turn. Like, just
mhm.
because you can doesn't mean you should, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just, like I think the only way I can give for her acting the role, she had to be selfish. Like, she had to be, like, incredibly, like, controlling, like a closing
Mhm.
hand, like, you can't escape. It had to feel that way. I think she did a great
Yeah.
job. I just
Yeah.
acting-wise, I would not have casted her, but I did enjoy her acting. That sounds horrible,
Yes.
but I enjoyed
Yeah.
her
No,
acting.
no, I'm with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
Um,
surprised.
that moves us to Emma, little
Yes.
sister, played by Eliza Scanlon.
Yeah.
I think same kind of feelings I have about Adora wouldn't have been my first choice, but I think she really nailed it, especially that last line of the show.
I will say when I imagined her, even though I didn't know a lot of actresses that young at that age, I did imagine like a really young Amanda Seyfried or
Mhm.
that's who I
Seyfried.
she had to be
That's
like a cherub. Like she had to be
yeah.
blonde and like
Right.
she had to look like super pretty and like the whole like her thinking that she was, like, hot shit, like, out of the
Yeah.
house, like, she thought she was that popular good girl. In a small town, she was, you know?
Yes.
But when she goes home, just seeing her change her clothes, change her hair, change her mannerisms, change her voice, like,
Mhm.
be able to switch that way, um, I loved this actress. Like, I think I had to say, like, seeing her at the dining room table in certain scenes, like, just the way
Yeah.
she carried herself, her eyes, to me, her eyes were so expressive, like,
Mhm.
the vibe of, like, "Get me out." But now that we know she was the killer,
Yes.
it's like, "Oh, you
But see, I
manipulative."
think she still wanted out, like, she knew her
Her
mom
mom
was
was
doing
bad.
this to her. Yeah, and but I think
Oh,
she didn't really know and I think that's why she ended up killing the girls, is because she needed an outlet, and
yeah,
unfortunately, that was her outlet. But
but the
she
mom takes
did
the
what
fall, like, her mom gets brought to jail, but we
I know this isn't really character discussion, but do you think she knew Emma killed the girls?
Oh, yes. I think the mom knew. The only reason I say I think the mom knew is because, my mom said something really, really smart, and she was like, "I know my children. Like, I know what you would do. I know what you would say. I know what you would do to cover something up." She's like, "I just know my kids." She's like, "I know everything about
Okay, but to
you."
play
So I think
devil's
she would know.
advocate, did she really know Emma though? Because she
Oh,
didn't she or did she
that's
turn a blind
true.
eye to Emma,
That's
like,
true.
going out and break like, she did all these
Ugh,
things, she snuck out, and so was
I
that
don't
just her
know.
turning a blind eye or,
I thought the
did she really
sneaking
not
out
know?
when she brought the other girls in, I low key thought it was like a punishment. To Emma, like, from the
Mm.
mom to Emma. I thought a little bit in my mind, if she really wanted to, like, mess with her head, she knows she wants all the attention,
Wow.
so your punishment isn't gonna be her saying something. That dismissiveness, for someone who seeks attention, what is the worst punishment?
You just, like, gave me a whole 'nother layer of this
I'm
book
just I you
story.
know, God, my
Yeah,
brain is just like,
'cause it was like a game of cat and mouse between the 2 of them.
exactly. They were so and that's my thing, like, what makes me feel the most uncomfortable is the father lived there and didn't
Yeah,
he didn't notice, like, certain things. That was, like, the biggest, like, "Something's wrong here." Like, there was no
yeah.
check and balance. There was no
So
balance.
let's talk about
Yeah.
Alan, dad. Alan Carlin is played by Henry,
Mhm.
Czerny. It's Czerny, so I'm gonna say Czerny.
I butcher
Um,
names, so it's
yes,
okay.
me too. So, how do you think of his performance of Alan?
I imagined Alan as the father from The Parent Trap. Um,
Okay.
I imagined him more good looking, but uh, speaking as a lesbian, I'm sitting here, I imagined him as a very good looking man. But I liked the father's acting because I felt like he was incredibly separated. Like, if he unless he
Mhm.
separated himself, I don't know, but I felt like he had seen so much, and, like, he had already lost one daughter, Camille lives far away, um like, she doesn't talk to them anymore, and then his only daughter that's living there is, like, a mama's girl, but she's sick all the time. He already saw that with his other daughter. I feel like
Yeah.
he had either accepted his fate and accepted the situation, whatever he did know, or he was so removed and so, beat down. Like, I felt like he was
Mm.
so beat down, like, in both the book and the show. Um, being married to someone who's so dismissive of you
Yeah, and manipulative.
and manipulative, I could only imagine, like, that sense of, like, defeat. So,
Mhm.
I felt
Yeah.
bad for him, But once we figure out what the mom is doing to the daughter, I couldn't anymore because I was like, "You never said anything. Like, you didn't he didn't put any of the
Yeah.
she's always sick, but there's no name for this sickness, like, this illness. Like, they're not taking her to the doctor. Like, what do you mean?" Like, it was things like that where I was like, any parent I know, if their child is sick and it's consistent, like, you would take them to the doctor. So, it
Yep.
was little things like that I was like, I think the father is somewhat aware. So, I liked the casting. I did enjoy
Yeah.
that. Sorry,
Good.
all my answers are so long. I'm so
No, I love
sorry.
it.
Yes. So, yeah.
So let's move on to Detective Richard Willis,
Whoop, whoop.
played by Chris Messina.
Yes. I liked him. I think every single time that he
Yeah.
was on screen, I it was nice to be around someone other than the family to me.
Yes.
Same thing with the book. It gave, perspective.
Mhm.
If you're around crazy for long enough, you become crazy. So it
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
felt that way a little bit.
Well, and I think that he really did a good job of showing the emotion and the care he did have for Camille
She needed
and
that.
the heartbreak that he kind of felt when she ended up sleeping with John Keane.
I don't think she could accept love at that point, like, in that way. I think that, like, attention is so warped for her. And,
Mhm.
like, I think the only wholesome relationship she had in the book and in the show was with her boss,
Yeah.
who was like a father figure. I think that's the only
Yes.
really even her sister, I feel like it was more like this savior complex and her still
Yeah.
grappling with her grief of her other sister.
Yeah.
I don't really
For
think she
sure.
really loved, like, who her I don't think she could
Especially with the
see.
fallout she had at the end. Like, so
No.
we the show doesn't give us this, but in the book, we get a lot of the fallout after it's revealed that
Oh
Emma
my
is
god.
actually the one that murdered everybody.
Mm.
And I believe she cuts herself again, and the boss and his wife really have to help her back out of this.
Hell
And I
yeah.
don't think she really healed until like she didn't hit rock bottom at the beginning of the story. Rock
No.
bottom was definitely the end of the story.
Ooh, I felt like
Even
rock
though she
bottom was
thought,
the scene where she had to drug herself, like, where she was all fucked up and she was in the bath, she was fighting for her life, and, like,
I know
I felt like that was because she knew at that point, like, what a mind fuck to know that your mom was doing the same
doing
thing
this
to
to
you
you.
that she did to your other sister who you did actually have a
Yeah.
relationship with. That for me
Mm.
was, like, psychologically, like, how much darker can it get? We do find out it gets darker. We do. But
Yeah.
in my head, I was like, imagine, like, have you ever seen, can't help but bring it up because it's very similar. In M. Night Shyamalan's film, The Sixth Sense, which everyone knows, like, he was dead the whole time. In The Sixth Sense, there's a scene where a young boy can see ghosts, and he sees a little girl, and she's pointing to a box of movies, and in the box of movies, you see that her stepmom was giving her, rat poison and was
Mm.
making her sicker and sicker. They're
Mhm.
at her funeral, and the boy puts the film into the TV, and the father's able to see what was happening to his daughter, why she really died. And the stepmom is the only one wearing red at the funeral, red being a symbol of death and this consistency in the film. Long story short, she's able to communicate how she died, what her stepmom had done to her.
Mhm.
um, cause and effect. And in this situation, the book was the same way as the show to me. The cause was this constant need for the mother to have control. I can care for you. You're sick. I can care for you. I have purpose. You can't leave me. I have purpose. And for her daughters, it was this trust. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
My mom will care for me. She would never let anything happen to me. And because she cares for me, the effect is that I get attention. We both
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly sick and these drugs, your young body is still developing and your liver can only take so much, like,
I know.
there's no consideration for your child's well-being. It's just this cause and effect, this constant cycle. Camille was
Yeah.
able to escape, but on the downside, I don't think she really did, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, in
So
the book, I think you get a little bit of an epilogue for her
Mhm.
and the Currys taking care of her. So I do see
Finally
a
a loving
light at the end of the
relationship.
tunnel.
Finally,
Yes. Yeah, I see the light at the end of the tunnel for her
finally.
with the Currys. Speaking of the Currys, Frank Curry is played by Miguel Sandoval.
A good
What did you
man.
think of his portrayal? We didn't
I
really
love
get as much
him.
with him in the show
No?
as we do the book, but
I think the characteristics match. We needed him to be like,
yes.
call her on her shit. Like, when he told her to go to her hometown, of course, I don't think he knew
No.
how bad it was. If he had
Right.
known, I don't think out of just respect he would have sent her back. But then again, I think that's like the mortal flaw with Camille, is that she only discloses so much Like,
Mhm.
she keeps people at such an arm's length. So that character, her boss, I don't think he was even allowed to really be close to her in any capacity until really the end. Um, but it was nice to have him in the show, at least as a voice of, I guess, a voice of reason. Like, the bodies are adding up. You need to write about it for your job, but at the same time, like, be careful. Like, he cared about her, not
Yeah,
for,
and he did,
anything.
I think, feel going home would be some sort of closure for her.
Oh my god.
'Cause, I mean, we open up and we see that she's not doing well, like, she's an
Mhm.
alcoholic, so, and, you can see visually in the show, her apartment's not really well kept, so I think he really did think that this would be helpful for her,
Yeah.
and I do think that in the long run, like, after everything came out, I think she did end up getting closure, finding out what really happened to her sister, and maybe even deep down, she really did know
I think she did. I
her
think that's part of
mom
the
something.
alcoholism. Maybe it was like
Right.
a to cope.
Numbing. Mhm.
Yeah, just a sense of
Yeah,
cope. I cannot tell you enough. I really do think the mom knew, like, all
about
this
Emma.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
do
think
think
she
that she was
knew.
covering for her.
I think bringing the girls over was a sense of punishment. If you're gonna sneak out and you're gonna do this and that, you're gonna leave me, I'll just bring someone else to replace you. And
Right,
that rage, and, like, you know what I mean? And for her daughter, that rage of, like, I can have both. I can have my outside life and my home life, as messed up as it is. Her mom's like, "No, I'm lonely. I need a new toy." Hence the
right,
dollhouse vibes, like, "I need a new toy." It's a human life, but she didn't see it that way.
right. I wanna wrap up and just get your initial thoughts
Mhm.
of the adaptation, and I'm gonna skip our character arc discussion for our next part because I feel
Okay.
like this story in particular is
Yeah.
so heavy on the character development, so let's move that to our next
I
episode.
agree. Character
But
development,
wrap up
ooh,
this
they only get
let's wrap up
worse.
this episode with, your initial thoughts of the
Yeah.
adaptation.
Honestly, this was one of the best book to show adaptations I've seen, I have to
Mhm,
say, especially with such dark, material. I
mhm,
really enjoyed how they displayed each of the core women in this story. I never felt bored with Camille's kind of point of view, and I enjoyed that, at least from the book to the show. In the book, we only see things from Camille's point of view, versus the show, we get to
right.
see certain things when she's not around, which gave a lot more
Yes.
perspective and was quite
Mhm.
nice.
Yes.
But I honestly feel like I was scared for Camille, but also I couldn't look away. And
Yeah.
that sense of capturing your attention and the pacing was beautifully done. So I think it was a great adaptation. That's my best summary of it.
Yeah, and we've read the book and for the show to still grasp us even though we know
Oh
what's
yeah.
going to happen at the end, but we're still very enthralled with the story, like, you just have to give them props because, you know, it's hard to keep your attention when you already know what's happening,
Mm.
and, like, I was still on the edge of my seat even though I know where this is going, so
Yeah, I
kudos to
pacing was
HBO.
great. Pacing, I also think that seeing, like, Amy Adams is a beautiful woman, but the way
Mhm.
that she had to physically, like, drain herself of color, I there was she looked like she was seriously combating alcoholism, trauma, PTSD, continuing the self-harm to this
All of the
day.
things.
All of
Yeah.
all of it. Everything. I think the only other actress I can think of who's done that was, Emily Blunt in The Girl on the Train,
Mm.
where another book to film adaptation where
Yes.
she had to physically, she also dealt with alcoholism, she also had trauma. Both those women and those characters had things repressed. And that's my only thing. I think the alcohol repressed a lot of things they could not deal with sober. They could not deal with
Yeah.
on their
Well, and
own.
that's, what alcoholism and drug addiction is
100%. So
yeah, all
had she
about.
just had the support, I think had she just
Yeah.
had the support and, like,
Mhm.
the no judgment and uh honestly, I love therapy. I think had she had that option, maybe
Yeah.
she would have been able to see her mom, not for the horrible, she probably wouldn't be able to see everything, but I think it would have helped the character, at least, to be able to
Yeah.
really unpack things. So when she went back to that house, she was ready. I feel like she went back into that house
Yeah.
and, like,
Way too soon.
her mom just continued to feed on her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even I know it's the elephant in the room, but her mom unalived young girls. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
go after, like, adults. Like, she only went
Right.
after, like,
Well, it's
youth.
like a power move.
100%. So it definitely gave me a similar vibe of, like, if we're going paranormal, like a vampire. Like, she
And
feeds
also,
off
I
them.
just remembered this. I don't remember if the show touched on it, but in the book, definitely, Adora also had a really hard childhood
She doesn't
with her
mention
mom.
that. Yes, it's this cycle, like, the generational trauma
Yeah,
is insane.
generational trauma.
Yeah, so the
Mhm.
character development,
Yep.
I think the only character who truly developed in a positive manner was Camille. It makes me feel so bad for her sister because she was a product of her environment, but we can go into that in the
Yep.
next episode, but I will say
Yes,
that
let's.
so good. Great. I would for anyone who's okay with dark content and who enjoys a good thriller and enjoys, like, a good, like, twist moment, this is a great show. Like, I would highly recommend it. You do not have to read the book to watch the show. It could to
Yeah.
me, it stands on its own. It could easily stand
Well,
on its
and
own.
yeah, I mean, like we said at the top of the episode, this is a really great page to screen
Oh,
adaptation.
yeah.
So, I personally believe the book is always better, but if you have to choose one,
Mm.
the show is great on its
I think
own.
I would have to
And it didn't really
choose the
leave,
show, yeah.
yeah, it didn't leave really anything out besides the little epilogue, but watch the
Yeah,
show, then go read the epilogue.
I agree, and if you like, sharp objects, then I would recommend another show called The Mayor of Easttown,
Oh,
which is
yes.
also quite good. If you like, a claustrophobic small town thriller with a murder and, like, twisty family dynamics, dark content, trigger warning for sexual assault, and incest, if you're okay with dark stuff, you don't mind, that's a great to follow this up, if you have, like, a hole in your heart, you're like, "I need the darkness." Yeah, I think that's a great show, and I think it's also on I think it's on HBO Max, I think.
I
Um,
think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
HBO Max,
Yeah.
it's got a
It's
it's
got
got a rap sheet,
everything.
for sure, but yes, another good show to touch the base on that, so yes, if you like that.
All right. Well, Alyssa, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I will see you next time on part 2 of Sharp Objects. Listeners, thank you for joining us again for another episode, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.